All right, future Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt, are you out there? Ready to crush that Management and Strategy Institute exam? Well, you've come to the right place because this deep dive, we're thinking of it as your cheat sheet, really. Your
hmm
cheat sheet to feeling confident and ready to totally ace that test. We've
hmm
got MSI's Yellow Belt training materials right here, and we're going to pull out all the essential nuggets of wisdom that you need to know, no need to feel overwhelmed. We're all about making this prep as painless and as effective as possible.
Absolutely. We're going to break it down, even the most complex concepts, into bite-sized pieces and highlight the key takeaways and give you those aha moments that make all the difference.
So first things first, what exactly is Lean Six Sigma? It can sound a bit intimidating, like a secret society of efficiency gurus.
Well, it's not as mysterious as it sounds. Lean Six Sigma is really a powerful framework for problem solving and process improvement, and it's used by companies all over the world. I mean, just imagine a world where things run smoother, there's less waste, and quality goes way up. That's the promise of Lean Six Sigma.
Okay, I'm liking the sound of this already, but where did it come from? Is there like a Lean Six Sigma origin story?
Actually, there is. Lean principles emerged from the Toyota production system, which revolutionized manufacturing with its emphasis on efficiency. So think about, how reliable well-made Toyotas are. And you get the idea. Six Sigma, on the other hand, came from Motorola. They were all about improving quality, but through data analysis and statistical methods.
So Lean Six Sigma is like a dynamic duo of efficiency and quality.
Exactly. And combining these two approaches is like having a superpower for improving processes, whether you're in manufacturing, healthcare, finance, IT, you name it. That's why it's such a valuable certification no matter what your industry is.
So this isn't just for people on the factory floor then?
Not at all. The beauty of Lean Six Sigma is that it's applicable to any process, from streamlining patient care in a hospital to optimizing software development. It's about understanding how work flows and finding ways to make it better.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal, but the exam covers a lot of ground. If you had to pick one core concept that every yellow belt needs to master, what would it be?
Without a doubt, it's DMIC. Think of DMAIC as the heart and soul of Lean Six Sigma. It's the five-step roadmap you'll use to tackle any improvement project.
DMAIC. Okay, another acronym. Break it down for me. What does it stand for and why is it so important for the exam?
DMAAC stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. It's a structured approach to problem solving that ensures you're not just putting band-aids on symptoms, but actually addressing the root cause of issues. And trust me, the exam will test your understanding of each phase in detail.
Okay, DMAIC. Got it. It's like a recipe for process improvement. Let's unpack each of these phases, starting with define. What's the first step in tackling a process improvement project?
The define phase is all about clarity. Imagine you're setting out on a road trip. You wouldn't just hop in the car and start driving, would you? You'd first define your destination and map out your route.
Definitely not. I'd probably spend hours researching the best coffee shops along the way, but I get your point.
Exactly. In the define phase, you're doing the same thing, but for your process improvement project. You're clearly stating the problem you're trying to solve, establishing your goals, and setting boundaries for your project. This is where you create your project charter, which acts as your roadmap.
So the project charter is like the official document outlining the mission, the scope, and the plan of attack. Makes sense. But how do we make sure we're solving the right problem in the first place?
That's where the voice of the customer, or VOC, comes in. It's all about gathering data on what your customers actually want and need. I mean, after all, you can't improve a process if you don't understand what better looks like from the customer's perspective, right?
And the exam might ask you about various VOC tools, so brush up on those.
VOC, gotta love those acronyms. So we've defined the problem, and we've got the customer's perspective. What's next in our DMAIC journey? Time to bust out the measuring tape. You got it. The measure phase is all about data collection, so we need to understand the current state of the process. How is it performing right now? What are the baselines we need to improve upon? Think of it like taking a before picture before you start your home renovation project.
So we're gathering data to establish a baseline for improvement and to track our progress later on. But how do we know what to measure?
That's where process mapping comes in. We need to visually represent the steps involved in the process, identify bottlenecks, and determine which metrics will give us the most meaningful insights. Remember those process maps we mentioned earlier, like SIPOC diagrams and value stream maps? Those are your friends in the measure phase.
Okay, process maps, metrics, starting to feel like a data detective here. What happens once we've got all this data? Do we just stare at spreadsheets and hope for the best?
Not quite. That's where the analyze phase comes in. This is where we dig into the data, looking for patterns, trends, and root causes of those pesky problems we're trying to solve.
So analyze is all about playing detective with data.
Exactly. This is where those analytical tools come into play. Things like fishbone diagrams, Pareto charts, and even good old-fashioned brainstorming. The exam will likely ask you about these tools, so make sure you understand how they work and when to use them.
Fishbone diagrams, Pareto charts, it's starting to feel like a Lean Six Sigma toolkit is taking shape.
And remember, the analyze phase is crucial for identifying those root causes. We're not just looking for quick fixes. We want to understand the underlying why behind the problems so we can come up with effective and lasting solutions.
Okay, solid analysis, problem understood, time to roll up our sleeves and fix things right. What happens in the improve phase?
Now we get to be creative. In the improve phase, we brainstorm, develop, and implement solutions that directly target those root causes we uncovered in the analyze phase. The goal is to come up with solutions that are not only effective, but also practical and sustainable. Think cost effectiveness, ease of implementation, and long-term impact.
So it's not just about coming up with any solution, but the best solution for the situation.
You got it. And there are tools to help us do that. Think View Matrix, a way to compare different solution options against a set of criteria, or cost-benefit analysis, which helps us determine if the benefits of a solution outweigh the costs. You'll likely see questions about these on the exam, so be sure you understand how they work.
So we've brainstormed, evaluated, and chosen our solution. Are we ready to roll it out across the entire organization?
Not so fast. Before we go all in, we need to test our solution in a controlled environment. That's where piloting comes in. It allows us to see how the solution works in a real-world setting and make any necessary adjustments before implementing it on a larger scale.
Piloting is like a dress rehearsal for process improvement. Makes perfect sense. So once we've successfully piloted our solution, we're finally ready to implement it across the board.
Almost. We've got one more crucial phase to cover: control.
Okay, control. What's the secret to making sure those hard-earned improvements stick around?
The control phase is all about maintaining those gains and making sure the improved process becomes the new normal. This involves monitoring the process, documenting changes, providing training, and putting systems in place to ensure those improvements are sustained over the long haul.
So it's about creating a system where continuous improvement is built into the way things are done.
Exactly. And a key element of the control phase is statistical process control, or SPC. It's a set of tools, including those control charts we mentioned earlier, that helps us monitor process performance over time, spot any deviations, and ensure things stay on track. You'll definitely want to be familiar with SPC for the exam.
SPC, control charts. It's all about keeping a watchful eye on those improvements and making sure they don't slip away. But we haven't talked much about lean yet. I know it's all about eliminating waste, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Great question. Let's dive into the world of lean after a quick break. When we come back, we'll explore the 7 deadly wastes that can sabotage any process and some powerful tools for fighting back.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle the lean side of Lean Six Sigma. We know it's all about eliminating waste, but what exactly does that mean? Is it like about turning off the lights when you leave the room?
Well, saving energy is always a good thing, but lean thinking goes much deeper than that. It's about identifying and eliminating any activity that doesn't add value to the customer. So think of it this way. If your customer wouldn't be willing to pay for it, it's probably waste.
Okay, so it's not just about saving money, but about making sure every step in the process is truly valuable to the customer. But how do we know what's waste and what's not? It seems like one person's trash could be another person's treasure.
That's where those lean tools come in handy. One of the most fundamental concepts you'll need to know for the exam is TIMWOOD. It's an acronym that represents the 7 deadly wastes.
TIMWOOD. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What are these 7 wastes we need to be on the lookout for?
Think of TIMWOOD as a checklist for inefficiency. The T stands for transportation, moving things around more than necessary. I is for inventory, having more materials or products on hand that you actually need. M is for motion, unnecessary movement of people or equipment.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's all about streamlining processes and eliminating any unnecessary steps.
Exactly, and it gets even more specific. W stands for waiting, delays, or idle time in a process. O is for overproduction, making more than is needed or making it too early. The second O is for overprocessing, doing more work than is necessary to meet customer requirements. And finally, D is for defects, errors, rework, or scrap that needs to be fixed or discarded.
TIMWOOD, I'll definitely be keeping that acronym in mind, but how do we actually go about eliminating these wastes in practice? Do we just like walk around with a Tim Wood checklist and just start slashing and burning?
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. Lean Six Sigma provides a framework and a set of tools for identifying and eliminating waste systematically. Remember DMA-SCI. That's where these tools come into play. For example, in the analyze phase, you might use a process map to identify areas where transportation or motion can be reduced. Or you might use data analysis to pinpoint sources of defects or overproduction.
So DMAC and Tim Wood work together to create a more efficient and effective process. Got it.
Uh-huh.
But are there any other lean tools I should be familiar with for the exam? I'm starting to realize there's a whole Lean Six Sigma toolbox out there.
You're right, there's a whole arsenal of lean tools at your disposal. Another one you'll likely encounter is 5S, a methodology for workplace organization that's deceptively simple but incredibly powerful.
5S, does that mean I need to color code my sticky notes and alphabetize my paper clips?
Well, an organized workspace is certainly a byproduct of 5S, but it goes much deeper than that. The 5 S's stand for sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain.
Okay, let's break it down. Sort, what's that all about?
Sort is about getting rid of anything that's not needed in the workspace. Tools, materials, equipment, even information. If it doesn't add value to the process, it's gotta go.
Sounds like a good spring cleaning session. What about set in order?
Set in order is all about organizing the remaining items so they're easy to find and use. Everything has a place and everything is in its place. Think visual cues, labels, and designated storage areas.
Okay, so sort is about decluttering, and set in order is about organizing. What does shine entail? We're talking about like waxing the floors and polishing the equipment.
You could say that. Shine is about keeping the workspace clean and tidy, but it's also about inspecting equipment and identifying potential problems before they become major issues. A clean and well-maintained workspace is a more efficient and safe workspace.
Makes sense. But how do we make sure this newfound organization and cleanliness doesn't just like disappear after a week?
That's where standardize comes in. It's about creating clear procedures and guidelines for maintaining the 5S system. Everyone knows what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Think checklists, visual aids, and regular audits.
So standardize is all about making 5S a part of the daily routine. And what about sustain? How do we keep this momentum going?
Sustain is about making 5S a habit, a part of the company culture. This requires ongoing commitment from leadership, regular training and reinforcement, and a system for continuous improvement.
5S, it's not just about a clean workspace. It's about creating a culture of efficiency, organization, and continuous improvement. I can definitely see why that would be important for the exam.
Absolutely. And remember, Lean Six Sigma is all about applying these tools and concepts in a practical, results-oriented way. Don't get bogged down in the theory. Think about how you can use these tools to solve real-world problems and make a tangible difference in your organization.
Okay, so we've got Tim Wood for identifying and eliminating waste, and 5S for creating a well-organized and efficient workplace. What other lean tools should I have in my arsenal for the exam?
Well, Kanban is another one you'll want to be familiar with. It's a visual system for managing workflow, often using a board with cards or sticky notes to represent tasks, so you've probably seen Kanban boards used in software development. But they can be applied to any process where you need to track progress and keep things moving smoothly.
Kanban. It's like a visual to-do list for your entire process. I like it. Anything else?
Yes, just in time, or JIT is another key concept. It's all about producing or receiving materials only when they're needed, eliminating the need for large inventories, and reducing waste. Think about a restaurant that only orders ingredients as they're needed to prepare meals. That's JIT in action.
JIT. No more stockpiling paper clips, just in case. I'm starting to see how all these lean tools work together to create a more streamlined and efficient system.
Exactly. And remember, the Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt exam is all about understanding these concepts and how to apply them. Don't just try to memorize definitions. Think about how you would use these tools in real-world scenarios.
Okay, challenge accepted. I'm feeling a lot more confident about tackling those lean concepts on the exam, but we've been focusing a lot on the lean side of things. What about the Six Sigma part of the equation?
Yes, Six Sigma. Remember how we talked about Motorola's focus on quality? That's where Six Sigma comes in. It's all about using statistical methods to understand, measure, and improve quality.
Statistical methods sound a bit intimidating. What are the key concepts I need to know for the exam?
Don't worry, the exam isn't designed to make you a statistics guru. It's more about understanding the basic concepts and how they relate to process improvement. For example, you'll need to know about measures of central tendency, things like the mean, median, and mode.
Oh, those take me back to high school math class, but how do they apply to Lean Six Sigma?
They help us understand the typical value in a data set, which is important for analyzing process performance. Then there are measures of dispersion, such as standard deviation and range, which tell us how spread out the data is.
So measures of central tendency tell us where the data is centered, and measures of dispersion tell us how spread out it is. Got it. But how do these concepts actually help us improve processes?
Well, let's take process capability analysis as an example. It uses statistical measures like CP and CPK to tell us if a process can consistently meet customer requirements. Can your process hit those quality targets every single time? CPPM and CP can give you that answer.
Interesting. So we're using statistics to predict how reliable a process is?
Precisely. And then there's hypothesis testing, which is used to test assumptions and determine if the changes we make are really making a difference. It's all about using data to make informed decisions about process improvement.
Data-driven decision-making, I like it. But beyond the statistical tools, what about those quality tools I keep hearing about? Things like Pareto charts, fishbone diagrams, and control charts, how do those fit into the Six Sigma approach?
Those quality tools are your visual allies in the quest for process improvement. They help us understand data, identify problems, and track progress. Take Pareto charts, for example. They're based on the Pareto principle, which states that roughly 80% of effects come from 20% of causes.
The 80-20 rule, I've heard of that. So Pareto charts help us prioritize problems and focus on the biggest culprits. What about fishbone diagrams? I've always found those to be visually appealing.
Fishbone diagrams, also known as cause and effect diagrams, are great for brainstorming potential causes of a problem. You start with the problem as the head of the fish, and then branch out to identify potential causes, like bones. It's a great way to visually represent the potential factors contributing to an issue.
So fishbone diagrams are all about getting to the root of the problem,
Bring it.
literally. And what about control charts? Those seem to be popping up everywhere in Lean Six Sigma.
Control charts are essential for monitoring process performance over time. They help us visualize whether a process is stable and predictable, or if there are special causes of variation that need to be addressed. Remember SPC, statistical process control. Control charts are a key part of that.
Okay, control charts, they're like the EKG of our process, letting us know if it's healthy or if there are any warning signs.
You got it. And by combining these quality tools with the statistical analysis we discussed earlier, you have a powerful toolkit for understanding, improving, and controlling your processes.
This is all starting to make sense. It's not just about memorizing a bunch of tools and techniques for the exam. It's about understanding how they work together to create a culture of continuous improvement.
That's a crucial point. Lean Six Sigma isn't just a project or a certification, it's a way of thinking. And a big part of that is understanding that culture and leadership play a vital role in Lean Six Sigma success.
Okay, culture and leadership. Sounds like we're moving beyond the technical aspects of Lean Six Sigma.
Exactly. Let's dive into how to create a culture of continuous improvement and why leadership buy-in is so essential. So we're diving into how to create the culture of continuous improvement and why leadership buy-in is so essential.
Right, because it's one thing to have the tools and techniques, but it seems like it wouldn't really stick without the right environment, right?
Yeah, it's true. Even with all the right tools and techniques, Lean Six Sigma won't really stick without the right environment. It's like, imagine trying to plant a delicate flower in rocky soil. It needs that fertile ground to truly flourish.
So we're talking about more than just training people on like how to use a fishbone diagram or calculate CPK, right? It's about creating an organizational culture that embraces continuous improvement.
Exactly. It's about fostering that mindset where everyone is constantly looking for ways to make things better, to eliminate waste, and enhance quality.
But how do you actually create that kind of culture? It's not like you could just snap your fingers and suddenly everyone's a Lean Six Sigma enthusiast.
Yeah. It definitely takes time and effort, and leadership plays a crucial role. Leaders need to be more than just supporters of Lean Six Sigma. They need to be the champions, the role models, the ones who walk the walk and talk the talk.
So leading by example, that makes sense. But what are some concrete things leaders can do to foster this culture of continuous improvement?
Communication is key. Leaders need to clearly articulate the why behind Lean Six Sigma. What are the benefits, not just for the company's bottom line, but for individual teams and employees? How can it make their work lives better, more efficient, and more rewarding?
So it's about painting a clear picture of how Lean Six Sigma can benefit everyone, not just the organization as a whole.
Yeah.
What else is on the leadership checklist for Lean Six Sigma success?
Walking the walk is essential. I mean, if leaders are constantly cutting corners or resisting change themselves, it sends a mixed message. They need to demonstrate their commitment to continuous improvement through their own actions.
Actions speak louder than words. Got it. Anything else?
Empowering people, that's crucial. Leaders need to give their teams that autonomy to identify problems, suggest solutions, and implement improvements. And this means providing them with the necessary resources, the training, the tools, and the time to participate in Lean Six Sigma initiatives.
So it's about creating an environment where people feel empowered to contribute to make a difference. But let's be realistic. Change can be challenging, so even with strong leadership and a clear vision, there's bound to be some resistance. How do we manage that human element?
That's where change management comes in. It's about understanding the natural human reactions to change and having strategies in place to address those reactions effectively.
So anticipating those bumps in the road and having a plan to navigate them smoothly.
Exactly. And one of the most important things is to involve people in the change process early on. So don't just spring changes on them. Communicate openly, listen to their concerns, and address them proactively.
It sounds like empathy and communication are really crucial for managing change effectively.
Absolutely. And don't forget to celebrate successes. So when teams achieve improvements, acknowledge their efforts and celebrate their wins, big or small. This reinforces the value of continuous improvement and builds momentum for future initiatives.
Celebrating those wins, big and small, I like it. It's about making continuous improvement a part of the company culture, not just a one-time project.
You got it. And remember, Lean Six Sigma is a journey, not a destination. So it's about constantly striving for better, for more efficient processes, for higher quality, and for greater customer satisfaction.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the technical nuts and bolts of DMAIC and lean tools to the crucial role of culture and leadership. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they prepare for the Yellow Belt exam and embark on their own continuous improvement adventures?
Remember, Lean Six Sigma is more than just a set of tools or a certification. It's a way of thinking, a problem-solving approach that can be applied to any aspect of your work and even your life. Embrace that continuous improvement mindset, never stop learning, and always seek out those opportunities to make things better.
Fantastic advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Lean Six Sigma.
Yeah.
We hope you feel equipped to tackle that Yellow Belt exam and, more importantly, embrace a journey of continuous improvement in all that you do. Good luck.